Here's a photo of some children who were part of the 1980s Australian cult called The Family. The group was run by Anne Hamilton Byrne, who believed she was Jesus, and illegally adopted 28 children before raising them in total isolation. All were given the surname Hamilton Byrne, the same clothing, and the same haircut and dyed hair color. The kids were imprisoned, routinely drugged with LSD, and brainwashed into believing that Anne was their real mother. They were denied nearly all access to the outside world and subjected to a strict discipline that included starvation diets and frequent beatings. During all of this, the children were told that they were part of a chosen group of superior beings who would survive an impending apocalypse and eventually rebuild and lead the new world. The compound was eventually raided in 1987 after a member escaped and blew the whistle on the cult, but Anne managed to avoid jail time, only paying a measly $5,000 fine due to a lack of concrete evidence. Initially known for her ridiculously large implants, German model and actress Martina Big says she identifies as black. She's had 23 breast augmentation procedures, as well as numerous perma-tanning treatments to darken her skin, eyebrows, and eye color. The woman says she was baptized as a real African woman while living in Kenya and hopes to build bridges between races. During a camping trip in June of 1969, 6-year-old Dennis Lloyd Martin was last seen hiding behind a bush, planning to jump out and scare his father before he completely vanished. Despite the largest search in Great Smoky Mountains National Park history, no trace of him was ever found. While serial killer Edmund Kemper was serving time in prison, he participated in the Blind Project, a volunteer program where he recorded audiobooks for the visually impaired. Kemper spent over 5,000 hours in the recording booth, as his deep voice was apparently well suited for narration. In 1978, Amos Atkinson held an entire restaurant of 30 people hostage while armed with a shotgun, demanding that his criminal friend be released from prison. But the situation took an unexpected turn when the man's mother stormed the building in her pajamas and hit Atkinson over the head with her handbag while telling him to stop being so stupid. Atkinson then surrendered peacefully. In 2007, Nicolas Cage bought a Tyrannosaurus skull for $276,000 after winning a bidding war with Leonardo DiCaprio. But upon later finding out that the skull had been stolen from Mongolia, Cage immediately turned it over to authorities. While in prison, Unabomber Ted Kaczynski received an invite to the 50-year reunion of his graduating class at Harvard. He RSVP'd, listing his occupation as prisoner and his 8 life sentences as awards. In 1979, the FBI formed a fake company which attempted to bribe members of Congress. About 25% of them accepted the bribe and were convicted. In 2007, a thief drove a $300,000 Porsche through the glass window of a luxury car showroom. After running out of gas almost immediately, he abandoned the car nearby. But the thief held on to the keys, brought a can of gas to the police station, and stole the car again. In 1985, a smuggler threw 40 kilos of coke from his airplane into a national forest in Georgia. That's when a black bear, later nicknamed Pablo Escobar, found and ate all of it and soon died from a massive overdose. A gangster from Hong Kong once kidnapped the son of Asia's richest man and extracted $130 million in ransom. Soon afterwards, the kidnapper called him and asked for advice on how to invest the money. During Prohibition, moonshiners would often wear these cow shoes to disguise their footprints. A Russian thief painted his entire face green to avoid being identified after stealing purses at a train station. But the 23-year-old was quickly arrested because he was the only person in the area with a green face. YouTuber Eugenia Cooney rose to fame in the early 2010s for her fashion and makeup videos, but over time, fans grew increasingly concerned over her visibly deteriorating health, with many suspecting a severe eating disorder. In many clips, she appears to be extremely thin, fragile, and shaking, with bones protruding beneath her skin, all while cheerfully discussing beauty routines. Viewers have pointed out moments where she seems disoriented or struggles to sit upright, yet continues streaming, sometimes for hours in front of thousands. As Eugenia's following grew, so did the concern that young and impressionable fans idolized her skeletal frame. In 2019, she entered treatment and appeared healthier upon returning, but over time her condition seemed to regress, sparking renewed accusations of glamorizing eating disorders to vulnerable audiences. YouTube and Twitch have faced mounting criticism for allowing Eugenia's content to remain accessible, despite the ongoing concerns about its potentially harmful influence. When Pope Pius died, his embalming was so poorly botched that his body began to rot and bloat almost immediately. During the public viewing, his nose fell off. and his body reportedly exploded from the gas buildup inside of the casket due to blistering heat. After being killed in a shootout in 1911, outlaw Elmer McCurdy's embalmed body was mummified and passed around as a carnival sideshow prop for more than 60 years. His corpse was finally identified in 1976, when a TV crew realized that the mannequin was actually a human body. In 2007, a 53-year-old woman died from a stroke, and her organs, both kidneys, lungs, and her liver, were donated to 4 different patients. Over the following months and years, all 4 recipients developed breast cancer, from which 3 of them ended up dying despite treatment. It was later found that the donor had breast cancer that hadn't been discovered at the time of her death. The only survivor had their donated kidney removed early before the cancer could spread. Doctors have said this was an extremely rare case that shouldn't deter anyone from receiving donated organs. In 2016, Star Trek actor Anton Yelchin died in a freak accident at the young age of 27. After pulling into his driveway in his Jeep Grand Cherokee, Yelchin went to check his locked gate for mail when the car suddenly rolled back down the driveway and pinned him against a pillar connected to the gate. It's unknown how long it took for the actor to pass, but he was found dead by friends hours after he failed to arrive at rehearsal, and the official cause of death was blunt traumatic asphyxia. Yelkin's particular car model had a known design flaw that confused drivers about whether it was properly in park, and was later recalled due to faulty gear shifters. If you think you have high cholesterol, this guy will make you feel a lot better, or should I say, a lot butter. A Florida man in his 40s followed an extreme carnivore diet for 8 months, consuming nothing but beef, butter, and cheese. He often ate entire sticks of butter and several pounds of cheese each day, causing his total cholesterol to skyrocket to over 1,000 milligrams per deciliter, while anything over 200 is considered high. As a result, he developed painless yellow cholesterol nodules on his palms, elbows, and the soles of his feet. Despite this, the patient said he felt great following the diet and was able to lose weight while significantly improving his energy levels and mental clarity. This is a photo of Jason Vukovich smiling at his brother after being sentenced to 28 years in prison. Vukovich tracked down registered sex offenders before assaulting and robbing them. He would then give the money to single mothers that he knew. Both he and his brother were sexually abused as children. This is the cabin of Unabomber Ted Kaczynski when it was held in an FBI storage facility in California. Ted Bundy removed the seat of his Volkswagen Beetle so that his victims couldn't be seen while he was driving. In Chicago 1926, famous piano player Fats Waller was kidnapped by gangsters for 3 days. He feared for his life until finding out that he was the surprise guest at Al Capone's birthday party. When he was found, he was extremely drunk and had earned thousands of dollars in tips from the partygoers. 3 burglars once unknowingly broke into Dolph Lundgren's home and tied up his wife, but they fled immediately when they found a family photo and realized whose house they were in. In 1971, a thief broke into a house and was shot in the legs by a trap set up by the homeowner. The thief then sued for damages and ended up winning the case. A Minnesota burglar was caught after he logged into his own Facebook account on the computer in the house he was robbing. The homeowner returned to find the man's account still logged in. In 2013, burglars broke into an office building to steal all the computers. But after realizing they were robbing a non-profit organization that helps victims of sexual assault, they returned everything they had stolen and left a heartfelt letter of apology. According to a 1992 biography, before she was married to Ronald, Nancy Reagan was known around Hollywood for giving the best head. She was reportedly known as Just Say Yes Nancy and was very popular on the MGM lot for her glucking abilities. Napoleon Bonaparte apparently loved Stinky Beaver. On several occasions, he wrote to his lover instructing her not to wash up before he returned to her. The wife of U.S. President Benjamin Harrison died while he was in office in 1892. 4 years later, Harrison married his dead wife's much younger niece and had a daughter with her. His original adult children, who were around 40 years old at the time, were so disgusted by their father marrying their cousin that they didn't attend the wedding. Legendary artist Jackson Pollock died in a drunken car crash in 1956, along with his passenger Edith Metzger. Legend has it that Edith was found with Pollock's bitten-off wiener in her mouth. In the late 1600s, a serial spanker used to terrorize the streets of London with his spanking tactics. Nicknamed Whipping Tom, the man would assault unaccompanied women by lifting their dresses and spanking their butts while yelling "Spanko!" Vigilantes dressed as women started patrolling areas where he was known to strike. At least 70 attacks were carried out before Thomas Wallace was captured and confessed to the spankings. Dirty facts about history that they'll never teach you in school, Part 12. NBA legend Dennis Rodman was once on a cruise with his girlfriend when they wanted to try something different in bed. She suggested for Dennis to run and jump inside of her while she was laying down unclothed. This resulted in Dennis shattering his member and pouring blood all over the bed. It was the first of 3 times that he would break his pecker, since once you break it the first time, it becomes way easier to break again. Gouverneur Morris was an important founding father of the United States who wrote the introduction to the Constitution. But he died at the age of 64 after attempting to clear a urinary tract blockage using a whalebone as a catheter. While the practice of marrying your cousin is typically seen as something only done by British royalty or Alabama rednecks, up until the 1900s, virtually no one married complete strangers like we do today. In fact, 80% of all marriages throughout history have been between second cousins or closer. Lee Redmond held the world record for the longest fingernails at 28 feet in total length after growing them out for more than 30 years. She said she had to sleep in a special uncomfortable position and couldn't drive because of them. But she eventually lost them after she was ejected from the passenger seat in a 4-car pileup that resulted in serious injuries. For 60 years, an unknown figure dressed in black visited Edgar Allan Poe's grave on his birthday, January 19th. Starting in the 1930s, he would pour himself a glass of cognac and raise a toast in front of the grave, before leaving behind 3 roses and the unfinished bottle of cognac. The man never spoke and was never identified. In 1942, forest rangers discovered something disturbingly odd at a lake located high in the Himalayas. There were over 200 ancient skeletons with blunt force trauma to their skulls, but the strangest part was that they were from distinct populations that died about 1,000 years apart. Researchers say the lake may have served as a recurring death trap over the centuries, with many likely dying from sudden hailstorms, which explains the cracked skulls. Many of the skeletons can still be seen emerging from the thawing ice in the summer, some with their hair and flesh still intact. Virginia Giuffre became one of the most prominent victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell when she fearlessly accused Epstein and Prince Andrew of repeatedly sexually assaulting her when she was a teenager in the early 2000s. But just today, the 41-year-old mother of 3 reportedly posted on Instagram claiming she only has 4 days to live after her car was struck by a school bus. Along with an image of her appearing badly bruised, Virginia wrote, "This year has been the worst start to a new year." I won't bore anyone with the details, but I think it's important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometers per hour, that no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can. I've gone into kidney renal failure and they've given me 4 days to live. I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. The post has left people asking many questions, with some believing it to be a sick April Fool's joke or a cover-up for the fact that she was actually murdered. Known as the Elephant Man, Joseph Merrick suffered from awful deformities that horrified and fascinated Victorian society. Rejected by his family, the Englishman joined a circus and performed in a freak show to earn his living. Merrick's disfigurement likely caused excruciating pain throughout his life, as he had to sleep sitting up propped against his knees due to his 22-pound skull. He died in 1890 at the age of 27 when he attempted to sleep lying down like a normal person, resulting in a broken neck that led to his suffocation. In his later years, Nikola Tesla became obsessed with a particular white pigeon, claiming that he understood her and she understood him. He said he loved her like a person and received visions from her. When the pigeon died, he said that the light in his life had gone out, and he knew his life's work was finished the moment she died. In 2019, a man from the UK suffered a 9-day erection after crashing his moped. The injury had disrupted his blood flow, causing his wiener to remain engorged. Once at the ER, he was classified as having a grade 4 erection, the highest possible tally on the erection hardness score. Doctors had to drain the blood and surgically redirect the vessels before the man made a full recovery. When future President JFK was dating Miss Denmark Inga Arvid in the 1940s, the FBI once bugged their room because they thought she was a Nazi spy. Turns out they didn't hear much conversation, but instead just a lot of spicy time. But that's not the crazy part. The reason why the FBI thought Inga was a Nazi spy was because she was Hitler's companion during the 1936 Olympics, and he once described her as the perfect example of Nordic beauty. This means that Hitler and JFK may very well have been Eskimo bros. The first confirmed minor to be executed in the United States was 16-year-old Thomas Granger in 1642, who was sentenced to death for intercourse involving several animals, including a mare, a cow, 2 goats, multiple sheep, 2 calves, and a turkey. Authorities consulted with his parents prior to the execution, and they thought that he would never be able to live this down. All parties agreed it would be best to simply execute him and wash their hands of the whole situation. In 2004, French authorities found a fully functional movie theater deep in the Paris catacombs, complete with seating, projectors, and a full bar. When police returned a few days later, the entire setup was gone and a note was left reading, "Do not try to find us." Just last year, a woman with type 1 diabetes died after opting for slap therapy instead of taking her insulin. She apparently had a lifelong fear of needles and grew tired of pricking herself, so she went to an alternative healer who treated her with the traditional Chinese method of slap therapy, during which the patient slaps themselves in order to expel poisonous waste from the body. She died on the 4th day of treatment due to not taking her insulin, while the alternative healer received 10 years in prison. In 1966, a teenage boy was flying a kite in Brazil when he stumbled upon 2 dead bodies lying in the grass. Later identified as electronics technicians, the men were wearing matching formal suits, raincoats, and most bizarrely, homemade lead masks covering their eyes. One of them had a note in his pocket that read, "Be at the agreed place at 4:30. Take capsules after the effect. Protect metals. Await signal." There were no signs of violence, and no clear cause of death was ever determined. The capsules were never found, and toxicology reports proved inconclusive due to organ decomposition. The men had been seen acting nervous and paranoid in the days leading up to their deaths, while reportedly measuring distances in the hills and carrying around a notebook filled with strange codes and symbols. Their families later stated that the men had been obsessively studying obscure books on alchemy, spiritualism, and intense luminosity experiments. Their bizarre deaths remain a total mystery to this day. When Jim Morrison died in France at the age of 27, no autopsy was performed as it was not required by French law. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure, but several witnesses say he actually overdosed in a nightclub bathroom and his drug dealers carried his body to his apartment bathtub. However, these claims couldn't be verified without an autopsy. During the siege of Leningrad, the city was blockaded by Nazi Germany for 872 days. Food supplies were so scarce that people resorted to eating wallpaper paste and even boiled leather from furniture. In the worst cases, cannibalism was documented by people digging up corpses and consuming them. Despite this, the city never surrendered, and about 1 million civilians died during the deadly siege. In the year 897, Pope Stephen VI had his dead predecessor, Pope Formosus, dug up, dressed in papal robes, and put on trial simply because the new pope hated him. They propped his decayed corpse on a throne, screamed at it, and found him guilty since he obviously had no defense. Formosus was stripped of his papacy while his corpse had 3 of its fingers cut off before being thrown in a river. The public was horrified by this grotesque trial, as Stephen VI was soon imprisoned and strangled to death. Formosus's body was later recovered from the river, reburied with honors, and his papacy was eventually reinstated by a later pope. The Spire wine bottle was found in 1867 in what used to be a part of ancient Rome. Dating back to the 4th century AD, it's believed to be the oldest unopened bottle of wine in the world. This staircase at the Hallstatt salt mine in Austria is 3,100 years old. It's the oldest known wooden staircase ever discovered. The average lifespan of koi fish in Japan is typically around 40 years. But born in 1751, a koi fish named Hanako far exceeded this average, reportedly dying at the age of 226 in the year 1977. This 3,200-year-old Egyptian tablet is considered to be the oldest attendance sheet in the world. Reasons for being absent included brewing beer, embalming brother, and bitten by scorpion. 17-year-old Tyler Hadley murdered his parents for being too strict. He beat both of them to death with a hammer and then spent 3 hours cleaning up the crime scene. He then threw a house party with 60 people while the bodies were still in the bedroom. He even showed the bodies to a few friends, but was eventually caught due to word of mouth at the party. A 70-year-old man robbed a bank in Kansas City and then sat down in the lobby and waited for the cops to arrive. He said he'd rather live in jail than with his wife. In 1993, a Missouri man damaged a levee on the Mississippi River simply to delay his wife from coming home so that he could party. Instead, the river ended up flooding over 14,000 acres. The 23-year-old man was convicted for intentionally causing a catastrophe and was sentenced to life imprisonment. The oldest known piece of chewing gum was discovered in southern Denmark in 2019. Scientists were able to map out the entire genome of the girl who chewed it around 5,700 years ago. And above is an artist's reconstruction of what she might have looked like. Tucked away in Westminster Abbey, this is the oldest door in all of Great Britain. Made out of a single oak tree, the door has remained standing for just under 1,000 years. The oldest prosthetic eye in the world was discovered in 2006 Iran. It was worn 4,800 years ago by an ancient Persian priestess who stood at 6 feet tall. It's believed to be made out of natural tar and animal fat, and was originally painted gold to make the woman appear to have supernatural powers. In 1989, 56-year-old Ole Benson laughed so uncontrollably while watching a fish called Wanda that he went into cardiac arrest. His heart rate reportedly spiked to over 300 beats per minute before he died at the movie theater. In 1814, a massive vat at a London brewery suddenly burst, sending 300,000 gallons of beer surging through the streets in a devastating flood. The torrent destroyed homes and claimed the lives of 8 people, including 5 mourners who were attending the wake of a little boy who had drowned just a day prior. One of those victims was the boy's mother, who was still holding her child's coffin when her body was found. A woman undergoing pancreatic surgery was accidentally set on fire after alcohol-based sanitizer met an electrical scalpel. Her body ignited in seconds, and she died from severe burns after doctors tried to put her out with a bucket of water. In 2011, a 16-year-old girl from China had been dealing with chronic headaches for years and finally decided to get them checked out. Doctors were shocked to find a fully formed tumor containing hair, bone, and multiple teeth, likely the remnants of a parasitic twin inside of her skull. It had been pressing against her brain tissue, and the headache stopped upon its removal. In 1965, a Ukrainian farmer dug up the lower jawbone of a mammoth. Further excavations revealed 4 huts that were made completely out of mammoth bones. These 15,000-year-old dwellings are now recognized as some of the oldest surviving shelters constructed by prehistoric man. The oldest known deck of 52 playing cards is from the Netherlands circa 1475. They're currently housed at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. This 900-year-old Indian sculpture of an elephant and a bull sharing the same head is said to be the oldest optical illusion ever found. The world's oldest cosmetic face cream was found inside of an ancient Roman temple complex dedicated to Mars. It's so incredibly well preserved that it still has finger marks inside of the lid. The Sweet Track is a Neolithic timber walkway discovered in England that's right around 6,000 years old. It was part of a network of wooden tracks built to provide a dry path across the marshy ground, and is known as the oldest surviving man-made walkway in the world. Found in the Judean desert in Israel, this 9,000-year-old stone mask is said to be the oldest known intact mask in the world. This 3,000-year-old foot of an Egyptian mummy was found with a prosthetic toe. The amazingly crafted object is likely the earliest prosthesis ever found. Here's a comparison of the world's oldest underground train station in London 160 years ago versus today. The Greenland shark is believed to be the oldest living vertebrate species in the world. This specimen is believed to be over 400 years old, meaning it was roaming the depths before the Pilgrims even entered America.